Peace, everyone. Good health, goodwill, good appetite, good manners, good behavior, all success and all prosperity, life, liberty, and the reality of happiness. These and all other blessings we are freely given, for we actually have them. At this particular instant, as you have heard the proofreading of a message that I gave in 1931, 20 years ago, declaring the abundant life as a living reality, and I am just as operative and expressive today as I was when I gave that message. You may retrace your thoughts back 20, 30, 40, or 50 years, although I may not look as if though I'm 20 years old. Since the Spirit never grows old. It is the same today, yesterday, and forever. But I wish to call your attention to that message that was given in 1931 to let you see and know God is the same today, yesterday, and forevermore. Aren't you glad? Then as it was, and as we brought out that little composition, bearing witness to that which I have spoken and am now speaking, you can see this is one eternal Merry Christmas and one eternal Happy New Year. As you are conscious of God's presence and know He's everywhere, it's one eternal Merry Christmas and one eternal Happy New Year. It's a privilege to live in such a recognition, knowing that the abundant life is as reproducible as that of the life of misery, poverty, and woe. It has been often stressed among the people of the earth, evil communications corrupt good morals. Ill qualities are catching as well as diseases, and a man is known by his company keepers. Vice versa, such an assertion and such an expression, and put into your experience good qualities and good company, you will tend to reproduce the nature and the characteristic of that which you are stressing. For the thing you vividly visualize, you tend to materialize. You tend to reproduce and bring into it your experience. For this cause, I have often said to the photographers, if you take cognizance of my message, a greater picture of me can be reproduced in your beautiful life. I have heard Christendom sing the song, Lord, mold us and shape us in thine own way. Thou art the potter, and we are the clay. But I have vice versa such an assertion. You are the potter, and I am the clay. Mold me and shape me in your own way. Whatsoever you may mold in a mold is in the likeness of the mold in which it is molded. God is being molded in you and yours, as you are the temples of the living God. And God has said, I will walk in them and dwell in them. In your likeness, Christ has truly come, if you will but shape and fashion him in your likeness of your personal appearance. And I say it's a privilege to have that privilege, to take cognizance of my message and a greater picture of me. Be reproduced in your likeness, in your very appearances, in the likeness of your personality, in the likeness of your individuality, in the likeness of you as the personnel of my follower, and see the expression hereof in your likeness, God Almighty. That little message that was given back then, 1931, was a message long to be remembered, never to be forgotten. But little did you or do, a good many of you think today, that it is from everlasting to everlasting. In stressing the positive, producing it and demonstrating it as a sample and as an example for you to reproduce, it's a marvelous blessing to know you can reproduce the positive instead of the negative. And when you sing the song hereafter, Lord, mold us and shape us in thine own way, say in all sincerity, I desire to mold and shape the life of Christ in my likeness, but let it be the perfect image of perfection, mentally and spiritually, so that it might be the reproduction of that, something that is spirit and life. If you shape and form something in the likeness of a mold, you may shape and fashion or form something in the likeness of a lamb. A cake may be shaped and fashioned like a lamb, like the mold of a lamb. Candy may be the same. Salads of different varieties may be the same. But whatsoever ingredients, that is that you are shaping and fashioning like unto the mold, it is expected to come out in the likeness of the mold. God desires you to be living epistles, seen and read by men, shaped and fashioned to like unto him, and he will be as you are, as you are fashioned like unto him. Then I say it's a privilege to observe the unfoldment of these truths as they are reproduced, not only in those of you, but in others, for life, vigor, happiness, success, and prosperity. All of these blessings are reproducible, and they are the real characteristics and life of God to the children of men, that they might shape and fashion their lives like unto the nature of Him, as put forth into expression, and you might be able to be seen and read by men. This day is a day that has been set apart as the 5th anniversary marriage celebrations review of me and my spotless virgin bride. To cause you to visualize purity, and not only purity, invisible, but purity, holiness, and virtue personified. I bring before your mind's eye my spotless virgin bride, teaching and telling all nations, all languages, and all people how they should live. Not to live after the manner of men in self-indulgence, in human affection, in lust and passion, but to live to and for the glory of God. Vision the bride as you see her sit by my side. You can observe the purity and holiness materialize, exemplify. Many, of course, thought long before this time, my spotless virgin bride would have been physically and mortally defiled. But I am showing the nations of the earth universally, those who live on the earth plane, how to live soberly, righteously, and godly, virtuous and holy, incorruptible and undefiled. Jesus was and still is known to be the son of a spotless virgin bride, the bride of the Lamb, and yet the bride of God Himself. For He did say, my Father and I are one. Christ came in the likeness of sinful flesh, for sin, to condemn sin in the flesh, but took upon Himself an illustrated parable. In speaking of it through the epistle, the apostle said, it is written that man shall leave father and mother and be joined unto his wife, and the two shall be one flesh. This is not a period there, as the two shall be one flesh. Suppose you just make it a comma. This is a great mystery, said he. But I speak concerning Christ and the church. Man in mortality did take such a holy marriage, yea, the sacred marriage of the Lamb in the parable, and consummated it unto themselves. For self-indulgence, not to propagate holiness and virtue, honesty and truth, and to reproduce and reincarnate such qualities of good as the perfection of God to the children of men, as I have done among you. But they brought it about and put it forth into expression through self-indulgence, dishonesty, incompetence, and untruth. Therefore, they drifted away from the fundamentals of the sacred bonds of matrimony. The sacred bonds of matrimony should have been from the beginning sacred, not only as may be deemed as secret when one elopes and marries in secrecy, but sacred bonds of matrimony, which was predestined to be sacred and holy from the beginning. As it was, they failed to live sacred, consecrated, holy, and virtuous to each other and to others. Therefore, it was necessary for one to come as a sample and as an example of virtue and purity to be manifested. By this spotless and virtuous marriage, you all stand here today before me whole. You stand with more pure minds, minds that can look upon womanhood as something that is sacred. If you take it from a womanhood point of view, and not as something that is immodest, immoral, and for the purpose of self-indulgence. Aren't you glad? Vision this life exemplified from the time as you heard the message as proofread. If you just take it from 20 years back, exemplify virtue and holiness, self-denial, consecration, honesty, competence, and truth, you would have had something to vision, to copy after, and to reproduce. But since I brought my spotless virgin bride from afar, I have set her in the midst of you as a sample of virtue and of holiness, of honesty and of truth, that each of you might reproduce by visualization. For the thing you vividly visualize, you tend to materialize. And that which you materialize, you can realize. I'm not ashamed of the truth that has been exemplified. Not only by her as my spotless virgin bride as an individual, but by those of others who have accepted of my message, some of whom lived in sin and vice and crime and debauchery of every kind before I came. They were willing to make a complete self-denial of those things and sacrifice all of those things for righteousness' sake, that they might live their righteous and holy life. For this cause, I present to the world not only as of my individual spotless virgin bride, but those of my offspring, those who are living soberly, righteously, and godly, those who are copying after the fashion I have shown you in this my spotless virgin bride. They are samples also and examples for others. Samples and examples of honesty. Samples and examples of competence and of truth. Samples and examples of virtue and of holiness. What can change mankind from vice and crime and sin and debauchery of every kind, saving that something that is greater than man? We do not need to comment on this point further. We do not need to ask anyone. But among yourselves, you can see how you have been changed. When you were dishonest, when you were incompetent, when you were unfaithful and untrue, the spirit of my presence actually produced and brought to fruition in you honesty, competence, and truth as nothing else could do. I'm changing the tides of governmental affairs, but brought as a sample and as an example to you, one that you could look upon as an individual, to see and know how all of the people should live among you in virtue, holiness, and in truth, and reproduce the nature and the characteristics of Jesus, your Savior, and of the Blessed Mary. Reproduction of those characteristics and those characters are just as operative and just as expressive. They are just as much possible to be reproduced as that of the negative and evil communication. As I said a little while ago, evil communication corrupts good morals. Ill qualities are catching as well as diseases, and a man is known by his company keeper. If you desire to change the tide of governmental affairs and change the world, if you please. Change your manner of living, your deeds and your actions, and change your every dishonest transaction, and express honesty, competence, and truth. And that which you have demonstrated will be redemonstrated to you. I need not say more at this instance, but I thought to call your attention to these points of view for the consideration of you. Then to let you see and know it is operative, it is expressive. If in 1931, as it was proofread, I was declaring the abundant life at that time. Those of you who have seen me at that time and before that time, you know I have produced the abundant life, transcending all lacks, wants, and limitations, transcending all adverse and undesirable conditions, and having the mastery over the economic situation and the mastery over the crime waves that have arisen from time to time. The perfect life controls the imperfect. As light shines in the darkness, and darkness comprehendeth it not, so does the life of Christ and the perfect life control that of the wicked and evil communication, and causes it to no longer have an existence when that which is perfect is put into expression. Not only for the benefit of your soul, but for the benefit of your body, for your economic security and protection. Aren't you glad? It is a life that is practical, profitable, advantageous, and beneficial. It's a life that is good for the healing of the nation. It is a life that is good for every comfort and convenience, if you will but accept of these fundamentals and concentrate on them and copy after the fashion I have shown you. So then I say it's a privilege. While others are living in lacks, wants, and limitations, living in adverse and undesirable conditions, while they are living in poverty, in confusion, living in vice and crime and sin and debauchery of every kind, the abundant life I have presented to you as a sample and as an example, I am contagionizing the universe with it. Now we have it in Australia, in New Zealand, in Switzerland, in Germany, in England, in the Panama Canal, and in Africa, and in Austria, and in many other countries, the same as we have it right here. And not only as a special occasion, but as a matter of course with them. Isn't that wonderful? To take on something that will produce in your daily life something that is desirable, something that is admirable, something that is appreciated. In other words, appreciated by all people. Something that is helpful, advantageous, and constructive. Something that is operative and expressive. Something that is productive and reproducive and can and will be reproduced in your experience if you will allow it to. I have long since declared the spirit of the consciousness of the presence of God is the source of all supply. This is not just merely a motto to be rehearsed or repeated over and over again, but it's a conscious conviction and a realization that has been, is the realization of many by their experiences. The spirit of the consciousness of the presence of God is the source of all supply, and it will satisfy every good desire. It's not only for those who are called followers of Father Divine, neither is it confined to those who are called members of our churches or racial abstraction, national origin, or any such abomination. But this is good for every nation, good for every language, and good for every people, all peoples. And it's operative and expressive, and it's contagious. You can get it, if you will, but accept of it. You heard one of our businessmen say a little while ago, for the last 15 years, he has been serving a number of our places here in New York. And he has been made successful and prosperous by so doing. The contagion of honesty, of competence, and of truth was so profound and so contagious and expressive. In the actuated words of expression, we have propounded it so vividly. He has caught it and he has expressed it in his business. He declares to you he's successful, he's prosperous, and he's healthy, and he's happy. Many of the men of this city and state have been driven away from here and under fire today because of dishonesty, incompetence, and untruth, because of graft and greed and racketeering among the higher-ups. Even though I came as one among the unfortunate few, I have made honest people in the land. I have brought success and health and competence to all mankind. Those who will accept of my message, they too will be partakers of it, the same as our honored speaker, our business representative right here today. Let us realize that which is good can be materialized. That which can be materialized can be reproduced and repersonified. If it can be materialized, it can be reproduced and repersonified. That is the significance of the universality of righteousness as well as that of wickedness. Wickedness is contagious and operative and expressive, reproductive, and will reproduce and be materialized and can be personified. Righteousness can do the same. Therefore I shall not be discouraged, neither shall I be disturbed, until I shall have universalized it as I have a jurisdiction in. And all of the peoples of our present civilization shall have a right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. As I have men come to me daily for lessons, for my advice, and for my instruction, I often say that which is operative and expressive for one is operative and expressive for another. But you must throw yourself in the channel of the Spirit to get it, and be susceptible to righteousness as you have been susceptible to unrighteousness, wickedness, sin, and crime. Aren't you glad? When they accept my message and dial in on it, they become to be reproducers, the same as the recording machine, reproducing that which has been produced as the same voice, but it's in another machine. So the same life, the same expression, and the same contagion, the same blessings are operative and expressive for one and for all. I thank you. I thank you. I thank you.